Hi, for those who don't know me, I'm Andrew Kavanagh. I've been part of Southern Lights here for over 33 years. Today I'm going to present part 4 of Caleb Nichols's 3-part series on finding purpose in crisis. I'd like to share with you today about how to navigate crisis. For those that are watching from inside the Melbourne metropolitan area, where we've just gone back into another 6 weeks of stage 3 lockdown and stepping back from the teasing off of restrictions we were starting to experience, I hope this message helps you to set yourself up to navigate the next 6 weeks in particular. There are 5 key points to this, so let's get into them. Firstly, we have to recognise that it's a process. As we've seen through the whole COVID-19 journey, things can change rapidly. Whenever we get into some sort of routine, it will not all happen in one go. It will be little by little. It's a process. The life we live is characterised by constant change, an aspect of life that most of us find exceptionally uncomfortable. We want to arrive. We're like the kids in the backseat on a long journey. We're constantly crying out, are we there yet? Are we there yet? When it comes to the journey of life, the answer is a clear no, not yet. Throughout our lives, change is inevitable. It is unavoidable. Growing up, my family used to go away a couple of times a year for what we referred to as a 3-day trip. Nothing druggy. Dad and Mum would pull us out of school on the Monday and we would spend 3 days just driving around southeastern Australia. We stayed in a different place each night and it was never about the destination. It was about the journey getting there. We would stop at every roadside monument, every historic homestead, every point of interest or scenic lookout along the way. We never asked, are we there yet? Because there wasn't the point. Except on the last day when there was home. Life's like that. So point 1, recognise that navigating crisis is a process. Secondly, we have to make up our mind to keep moving forward. Once we've acknowledged that change is both inevitable and unavoidable, we can stop fighting it and start to navigate it. We need to make that choice. That requires us to decide we want to move forward. And that requires us to recognise that going back is not an option. But more of that later. Let's look at our options. Option 1. We can try and go back. Imagine if after all the COVID-19 stuff is done and dusted, we say, okay, we're just going to pretend that never happened and we'll continue our lives exactly the way they used to be. Why is that a problem? I've met lots of people who've expressed sentiments like this. Here are a couple of reasons, I'm sure you can think of many more. It means that we have gone through an enormous amount of inconvenience and suffering for absolutely no reason. Secondly, it ignores the lessons we've learnt about ourselves and others during this time. Many of us have found out what our partners are like at work. What have you found out about yourself or others over this time? Option 2, we can wallow in self-pity and become miserable, or we can get angry, or we can blame others. These are all very natural responses to adversity, but they don't help us navigate it. I'm sure that most of you would have seen many social media posts that fit this option. Or we can try option 3. We can resolve to keep moving forward. Someone once said, if you find yourself going through hell, the key is not to stop there, but to keep moving. So point 2, determined to keep moving forward. Thirdly, to do this, we have to move on from what is in the past. I need to start this with a bit of an explanation. I'm not saying that you ignore your past. I'm not saying that your past does not impact your life. Quite the opposite. Spanish-born American philosopher George Santayana said back in 1905, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. What I am saying is that your past does not define your future. Don't let it strangle you. The biblical writer Paul, in a letter he wrote to a new church he'd established in the Macedonian city of Philippi, tells them that he is forgetting what lies behind. Yet, in another letter he sent to a different church, he recalls and recounts a list of horrible things that have happened to him in recent years. Clearly his idea of forgetting is different to ours. The explanation lies in the Greek word that's translated as forgetting. It can also be translated as neglecting. So it has connotations of that as well. He was going to neglect what lies behind. Today we might say, don't give it oxygen, or don't feed it. Don't keep focusing on it. Don't make it your reference point for interpreting life. Learn the lessons you need to learn from the past, but you can't live there. We often get caught up in the nostalgia trap, reflecting about the good old days. How many times have you heard people refer to the good old days? These reflections are very rarely accurate. Let's have a quick look at how good the good old days were. This is just an example. In 1970, the Victorian road toll was 1,060 people. In 2018, deaths on all Australian roads were 1,135. That's despite there being a much larger population and over 3 times as many cars on the road. The Victorian deaths prompted the government to introduce the compulsory wearing of seatbelts. Victoria was actually the first jurisdiction in the world to do this. Many had made the fitting of seatbelts compulsory, but no one had actually gone that extra step to insisting that occupants of cars actually wear them. That in itself is a bit of a lesson. You can have the equipment there. You can have what you need, but you've actually got to use it for it to actually be of any benefit. Anyway, I'll move on. The deaths on Victorian roads decreased by 13% the following year, and within 18 months, every other Australian state had followed suit. The rest of the world has continued to follow the lead. My point is, the old days were not that safe to go for a drive, and yet that was the way we used to take our holidays. Interesting that. They were not that good, just old. Let me give you another example, this time from the book in the Bible called Exodus, one of the early books. It tells the story of the Hebrew people after 400 years of slavery leaving Egypt. In another book, Numbers, it describes how they wandered around for 40 years and adds to the story. They'd been set free. There'd been a series of amazing events that had led to their release from slavery, and they were on their way to their promised land. What would you focus on? How would you express your emotions? Joy, happiness, appreciation, excitement that we're finally getting to go to the promised land? Nope. Here are some of the comments. We'd rather die in Egypt as slaves. At least we had pots of meat and could fill our bellies with bread. Let's go back to Egypt. We had free fish, cucumbers, melons, leeks, onions and garlic. It sounds like a fish souvlaki. The future is too challenging. Let's go back to Egypt. Even in the New Testament, the comment is made that their hearts turned back to Egypt. They'd been set free, but they weren't free. Despite the fact that their future was more promising than their past, the transition was too much for them. They were frustrated, could only see the problems, and would rather go back to slavery. It's this sort of attitude that we need to move on from if we want to successfully navigate crisis. So point 3, stop dwelling on the past. Fourthly, we need to fix our focus on the goal before us. Continuing on with our story about the Hebrews leaving Egypt. When they finally get to their promised land, they went to check it out. They came back with a report about how great it was, flowing with milk and honey, grapes the size of your head. But there were some problems that would need to be overcome. Have a guess what they focused on? You got it, the problems. That's one of the issues with not letting go of the past. Everything gets filtered through a negative lens. The problems always loom larger than the prize. Once we let go of the past, we're no longer tied to it. We can focus on the benefits of what lies ahead. We will see clearly what we have to gain rather than the things we believe we have lost. About 5 weeks ago, I made the mistake of hopping on the scales at home to see how much COVID weight I'd put on. Not impressed. Tell you more about that later. I determined to leave behind growing up in a bakery and using that as an excuse for always buying a coffee scroll or cake every time I went shopping. I had also bought a new suit and was sort of stunned that there wasn't really a next size up when I was looking online. So I decided to change. I decided to change my eating habits and lose some weight. But losing weight is not the focus, it's the measure. I'm not giving stuff up, I'm focusing on what I'm going to gain. I'm going to gain a whole lot more options in my wardrobe, a whole lot less knee, ankle and foot pain and from carrying excess weight around, being able to prolong my very ordinary cricket career. The bonus is more energy, better sleep, greater alertness. Those around me get the benefit as well. They get to enjoy a better, fitter me. Who wouldn't want that? With whatever crisis we're going through, part of the overall stress is the stress of not knowing the overwhelming uncertainty that accompanies sudden, unplanned change. If we can focus on what we will be, the better us, that what's on the other side, we create a compelling why for ourselves and give ourselves a reason to keep going and not give up. If there's no future hope, our only choices are to focus on the trial and to focus on the past. My advice with this point is don't try and do it alone. There's an African proverb that says, if you want to travel fast, travel alone. If you want to travel far, travel with others. We're not designed to tackle challenges alone. We were designed to be part of a community. So find yourself a community of which to be a part. Don't be a part, be a part. So many groups have taken the opportunity of lockdown to improve their visibility. Get online, find your people. There are heaps of ways to connect without physical contact. So point 4, focus on the outcome, not the cost. Finally, we must do. We must press on, as Paul mentions in his letter to the church in Philippi. I love the dual meaning of press on. It is traditionally meant to persist, to continue going in the face of adversity. We definitely need to make sure we do this, but it can also mean, in an era of appliances and keyless cars, the action required to start something. This too we need to do. This final step is crucial. Where the second step was to make up our minds, to determine to press on, this step is to actually put it into action. There's an old saying, when it's all said and done, a lot more is said than done. Let me return to me losing some weight. I weighed 79 kilos when I got married, but I married a great cook. When I hopped on the scales, as I talked about earlier, it was over 126 kilos. My wife had been saying to me, I'd been saying to myself, I need to do something about it. That had been as it went up from 110 kilos to 126 kilos. The fact that I wanted to do something about it, the fact that I had others encouraging me to do something about it, counted for nothing. My weight kept going up. My desire, the encouragement of others could not result in any change until I actually did something. They're both essential parts, but by themselves they were never going to result in change. So I did something. To keep doing the same thing, expect things to change, is the definition of insanity. Our desire, the encouragement of others, are not enough to help us navigate crisis unless we are doing something different. Unless we are prepared to embrace the changes that are necessary to get us to the other side. The inevitable changes will come. They will be disruptive, but together, with everyone making wise choices, we can get to the other side and be better as a consequence. So point 5, press on. So in finishing, let me recap. Change is inevitable. Change is not transitory. It's not going to go away quickly. Change is unavoidable, but it is through change that we grow. It is through change that we become better both individually and collectively. We need to ensure not only that we navigate successfully, but that we help those around us to also navigate it well. We need to recognise it's a process. We're not there yet. We need to make the decision to embrace the change. We need to stop feeding our past. We need to fix our eyes on our future, and we need to press on and get started.